Hi, everyone. This is a Leadership with Heart podcast, and this is Heather Younger, your host. Employee experience is powered by emotions. Managers and or leaders within organizations get to choose which emotions they unleash from within the people they lead. Leaders, meaning supervisors or above in an organization, drive much of the positive or negative emotions by their actions or inactions, their words, or what they fail to say. When a manager chooses their words and their actions carefully, they exhibit great emotional intelligence. These managers are often thought of as leaders who care, or as I like to call them, leaders with heart. This special brand of leader drives engagement and loyalty simply by being themselves. Are these leaders perfect? Absolutely not. It is in their awareness and sharing of some of their imperfections that we realize their brilliance. In this podcast, I ask you to see yourself in the stories my guests tell about times when they were not the best versions of themselves, but how they used their hearts to guide them to a place of deeper connection with their teams and heightened leadership prowess. Enjoy. Hello there, everybody. This is Heather with the Leadership with Heart podcast. I'm super excited to have Christy McCann as my guest today on the show. I have her on here for a couple of reasons. One, she is a part of this growing movement of Human First. And it's something that if you're on social media at all, you'll see the Humans First movement just kind of sweeping across not even just the country, but the world. And it's really having us all focus more on how we can create more human workplaces. And what does that mean, and trying to define that for all of us in the workplace. And then secondarily, I can just see, and I've had communications with her and seen her out there in the world. And I know that she has a deep belief in helping leaders grow. And so she'll be talking a little bit about that, and we'll see and feel some of that when we have this interview. So welcome, Christy.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here.
Okay. So where are you right now in your leadership journey?
That's a great question. I want to say that I made a really large pivot and also, spark within the last 24 hours. And I say that meaning is that I've been having a really difficult time calling myself an entrepreneur. And I think the reason I was having a difficult time calling myself an entrepreneur is just, the entrepreneurs that I've known that did not lead with the Human First Initiative. And so that name to me, I didn't like it. But I've started to embrace it lately because, I could redefine, what an entrepreneur is, from a human first place and still keep, the integrity and values of myself and what Go Coach does to really, amplify that to everybody. And so it started with, having a really difficult day on Wednesday, where somebody that we were speaking with in regards to investment just made me feel a way that I haven't felt ever since I created Go Coach. And the way it made me feel wasn't a good place, and I didn't feel inspired at all. And I think the biggest revelation that I had is that we were built, to create a safe and supportive environment for everybody to learn. And those values are always what's going to keep us true. And, where I'm no longer an HR leader, I am now an entrepreneur leader that I need to be able to redefine what that truly means. And I have the ability to do it with what we're doing. So it's great that you just asked this question because it just literally happened within the last 48 hours.
Wow. And I mean, you're building something so great with Go Coach. And I think it's we all reach these crossroads anyway in our leadership, right? Where we have to decide, like, do we want this thing more than we want to be living out our values? And it happens, like the promotion versus should this other person get the promotion, or, just how we might be treating a team member. I mean, we just reach a ton of those kind of crossroads through our life. And I think, again, it's a wonderful journey, and it can be painful because it's like also that part of humanity. We talk about humans first, as humans, we are not perfect. And so sometimes it's like just super painful though to see the not so perfect side of ourselves, because it's in all of us one way, shape, or form. But when we see it on the other side, like sitting at a table going, wow, that is human too. And it's not always a pretty picture, right? So we're all, like, when we talk on this show, we're talking about how do we make the picture more positive, even though we know we aren't perfect. We're always continuously improving. So it's interesting that you bring that up right at the beginning.
Yeah, I didn't feel good. Like, I mean? And I actually felt like not even perfect. I felt ugly. Just because of, some of the emotion that happened, and what would, be considered a good meeting, it wasn't a good meeting for the way that it made me feel. And not only that, for the way that it made my team members feel. And, I just looked at it in the lens that, yes, we're getting big very quickly, and, we're just going to continue to double down on us and our integrity and values. And, when the right investors want to come in that share those values, that's who we'll be able to marry with, and where we could just continue to amplify everything that we're doing. And so I think for me, I had to be ugly again in order to see, what the true beauty of what we're doing is, and how much that, I'm never going to lose that. And we're only going to continue to build that. So it was good. I wouldn't say it was great for my husband when he was listening to me rant. It was good overall.
Well, one of the things that you bring up, and we talked a little bit before we even started recording, but I think about the role of HR in kind of employee experience, leadership development, just this whole space. And when you talked about, it has to be ugly in order for us to see a beauty, HR traditionally gets a bad rap. Part of it is deserved and part of it is not, right? And it just depends on the role that they're having to play. But there's like this soft side that is there. I mean, there's just an original reason why you go into that field to begin with and why you're a leader in that field. And then sometimes it gets a little muddied. And this happens, by the way, with many just leaders inside or outside of HR. And we go in with like this purpose, this mission, really clear, really passionate. And then sometimes the tactics get in the way of being really beautiful leaders, as you kind of alluded to and are revealing right now. I don't know, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, just that struggle previously, from HR to then entrepreneurship. How do you feel about those changes? Yeah.
I went into HR just because I wanted to help a lot of people do a lot of different things. And it sounds generic, but it's really not. Because when you go into, HR, you have the responsibility of not just all the people, but the business. And you really play a conduit to make sure that everything happens in a way with integrity and values, that will, be pushed down to all customers and anyone that comes in. And I think that it's always challenged. And I think that the way that I always, went into HR is that you hired me to keep you honest, and you hired me to be the pulse of your organization. And, I'm your true hand. And a lot of leaders have embraced that. And then there's been leaders that have not embraced it. And, I want to say, my last job where they didn't embrace it, and there was an extreme amount of turnover and an extreme amount of volatility. And I was constantly being tested with my values, and to change them and morph them into, something else that to me wasn't comfortable at all. And I actually walked away, hating my role for at least a good year. Like I actually was saying, I can't stand HR. And, it was a year later that, after I got out of HR and I started to consult and, working, with all these other amazing HR leaders, and they were going through the struggle, like it's not us, we're anyone who goes in HR has a great intention, and they want to be able to help. And it's about, how we work with leaders to be able to do that. And I think, that was, a huge component of, why I even created this company, because I wanted to help people and particularly HR, so they can never be compromised, and that they're bringing education to everyone, because the more education that you bring, the more integrity that you drive, and the more productivity and empowerment and happiness that the organization is going to have. And so going back to what I said earlier with my leadership experience, you have to get into, I think, almost a bad place for the light bulb to go on and realize that HR individuals are never the enemy. It's about how they utilize their skills and their ambitions to be able to make a lot of great things happen within an organization, but they need the help of leadership. And I think that the more education that we drive at the leadership level, and instead of just bottom line and really going back to that human first, component, you're going to sail. You look at all the good companies, like the solid good companies out there, they have a very employee-centric, human-first initiative, and it just works. I mean, Zappos is a great example of this. And they grew very quickly. They never compromised their values, and they've been able to do amazing things. And I think that when you educate leaders as to what integrity really is, rather than just the bottom line, you go so much further.
Love that. Love it a lot. I know I digressed a little bit, but it was just, I had to go there. It was just a moment there. So I have a question for you. Most leaders that I talk to have, a reason for leading. Like it comes from some place. Like, it could be, their parents were in the military and they have this particular leadership style. It just could be they watched their mothers, who was maybe a quiet presence, but definitely led. It could be a previous leader that inspired them to lead. What is it that inspires or drives you to lead others?
I'm going to be really honest. Like I never really looked at myself in the lens of being a leader. I looked at myself in the lens of, how can I just help a lot of, people, do great things and come together. I think that we all are leaders, and it's about how we, impact others in a positive way for positive outcomes. And that's always just been part of, my natural DNA. And I think a lot of it has come from, good matriarchs within my family that, were always there and helping in so many different capacities that they didn't even understand, the value that they were bringing. But I think a lot of it had to do with the struggles, that I went through, and I saw other people go through. And it was always, I never wanted anyone to hurt like I did. And I think that keeping that lens, on, and trying to provide a safe and supportive environment for people so that they can learn and grow, I think, made me into, what a leader is and what really drives me. What drives me is happy people. What drives me is empowered people. Getting up every single day to my team right now is the biggest gift. And I haven't had that, since I was at Pearson Education, where I work for an amazing leader by the name of Jim Binky. And I got up every day for him because he inspired me, and it was awesome. And now that we've created this, at Go Coach, it's so nice, because now I'm not the only leader, but I have a great team that's all leading me and keeping me honest. It is the biggest win-win.
Oh, that's so great. I do remember one of them, Paul, actually saying something out there on LinkedIn that, really just being effusive and saying, Christy is just so amazing. I'm like, oh, that's great. I know that, but she's going to be on my show. It's just so exciting. I love to see it. I actually had my very last podcast that I had, Daniel McCollum, and he was amazing. One of his senior leaders is a pretty consistent listener of this podcast. And so one day she just reached out and said, Heather, I can't stand it anymore. Like all the people you're talking to, they're amazing, but I have to have our CEO on here. And so I said, you know what, no more, I won't even ask any questions. Just go ahead and give me his information. And he was on, and wow, that was a gift. And so it's always fun to see the folks that are, supporting you, how much they, really look up to you and value the leadership you have. And so it's a great example. Thank you for that.
Just one more note. They made me a leader. All the good people that I work with, and even the not so good people that I work with, like all those experiences that have built, me to, what I'm doing and why I'm doing. And it's been that why where, I have a path of what type of leader I truly want to be. And I kind of just look at it in the vein that, like, if somebody remembers me because I inspired them, then that's pretty cool.
I love that concept of it's not just like one event or one person. It's a whole culmination of the life experiences that kind of just created this person who leads others. I love it because what it says is, like, there's a lot of other people will say different things. They literally, like, they felt driven to be like the leader of a group. They felt driven to grow something big and have teams and to grow teams. And it was like a different kind of vision. I like your idea of, like, life created me. All of my experiences created me. The people who loved me, who didn't love me, all of those things created me, is a very compelling concept. So I'm gonna stew on that some more, and I may end up coming back to it as well. This idea of your struggles, the struggles that you've had, not wanting others to feel pain as a result. And in my background, it's the exact same way. I have that pain is what drives me to make sure that others don't have to experience the same pain. So I can feel for wherever that pain is for you as well.
I see it as a positive because, if I wasn't in pain, then I wouldn't have done certain things. And I think that that's just where we are right now in this world too. I mean, pain brings together a lot of great people. And I think that this has been, a huge launching point for everything that's going on with Humans First. And you're seeing it now. I've been writing tons of pieces on servant leadership, and I consider it to be a good thing in order to get to other good things. I know sometimes it can be a negative thing that can lead to other negative things, but when you look at the lens of the opportunity that it could bring you rather than the hurt it has brought you, I think it's just a different viewpoint that people can really use it as a major strength to help other people.
Ooh, love it. Love it. Everybody listening, just take that in. Let that just soak right in. All those experiences, all that pain, keep the positive lens in place so that it allows you and propels you to make a bigger impact and help other people. So I think that's just a great message. So I'm curious to know, do you recall a time when maybe you just weren't that best leader, the leader that was living the values that are so super important to you, that you didn't feel very proud of just who you were representing to those around you? Can you share a specific experience with us?
Yeah, it actually just happened on Wednesday. It was Wednesday. We were meeting with a pretty big investor, and I have been having conversations with them since June. And we went to the meeting expecting one thing, and one agenda, and they had a completely different agenda, which wasn't clear to me, even though that there was tons of communications that went on as to what our agenda was going to be. And going into that meeting and being blindsided with that kind of set me off on the wrong foot, especially when you build a relationship and rapport with someone and they're telling you something completely different. It's just like, all right, the first thing is, what did I miss? Right. And so as I'm sitting there trying to figure out what I missed and being hammered with a lot of different questions that were really good questions and that me and the team answered very well. I had stressors coming out all over the place. And the biggest stressor being is that, I had a goal in mind for that meeting and realizing that goal was not going to happen, and what I needed to do to be able to quickly pivot to make this more productive. And I couldn't get ahead of it. And I think the reason I couldn't get ahead of it is because I think the bigger mistake that I made is that these weren't the right people that we should have been talking to. And I looked at it in, a way where the last 6 months, while I thought that they were pretty positive, wasn't. And I was missing something, and probably because I've been too busy or wasn't clear-headed or, just assuming, that something was going the right direction. Whatever it was, I missed something. But, the good news is that, the stressors that came out in that meeting, that the team rallied in a way that continued to really double down on what our values are and what our intent is and how they'll never be compromised. It took me about 24 hours, to feel good again. Like I said, I felt really ugly, and the team, consistently called me over those 24 hours just to make sure I was okay. And they led me in those 24 hours to get me back to me. And I think that, understanding my stressors was a big thing and something that, I'm always going to have to continue to work on. But at the same time, if somebody brings out a major stressor in me that makes me feel ugly, you are not the right person that I should be working with. And so there was a major silver lining, that happened for me, and as to me having to be ugly again. And I'm just, like I said, I'm just so happy for it. It's been a tough 24 hours, but I'm really happy that it happened.
That's wonderful. I mean, it's not, and I know it was painful at the time, and looking almost like a mirror, looking at the person, looking at you, seeing your response to it, and kind of questioning, yourself, because you're questioning your judgment. I would imagine what was happening partially because you had already had conversations. You actually already had a positive impression of this particular group or guy. And then when it didn't pan out that he was like up to snuff, really, then I think the reason why you probably got angry as well is you're probably concerned that like your judgment, like, wow, I really didn't judge this person like I thought I did. And what went wrong in me over these years, I've been so good at it, right? What went wrong in me that I wasn't judging him well. But I think at the same time, like you said, like, wow, I must have had a lot going on. But the amount of the amount of your team supported you, that rallied around you afterward, it's basically, that is not who you are, Christy. We know that's just a blip. That's not who you are. And we want to bring you back to you. I just think all of it is just beautiful. All the different parts that are happening here with this enlightenment, by you right inside the meeting, and then just kind of having to based on it for 24 hours by the team and all of their tremendous support of you. It says we don't have to do it alone as leaders. So it's just lots of great messages in this one.
Yeah, I mean, I think, it definitely was a judgment call, but it's also, we're building and doing awesome stuff very, very quickly. And, our focus is spot on, but I think, I have to be more particular about the focus of priorities, that continue to culminate, what we're doing in our mission. And I think that I had a blind spot. When you're doing really well and great things are happening and you have lots of people interested in you, like you feel good, but you need to have a bad day in order to continue to have good days. And so like, I actually see the bad day as a blessing. Like I needed to have a bad day, right? It's been a great year.
Oh yeah.
I needed to have a bad day. And when I did, it ended up being a great day because, just what the team did, the rally, and it made me feel good again. And that's all that matters, because if I feel good, everybody else is going to feel good. And I'll be able to continue to serve them, like they've been serving me and everything that we're doing.
I love that. You serving them serving you. I really wish more leaders had that perspective. We may hear them say that, but in the end, I used to teach a lot on customer service, customer experience, and all this stuff to lots of different people in workplaces and in my own business, and I often find that people are really like narrow focused when it comes to who their customers are and who it is that they're supposed to be serving. It literally is like, whoever's paying the bills is who I'm serving, and if you're not, then you're not, and I don't know who you anything. And I think that I know that is the wrong way to be thinking about this, and so I love your perspective of them serving you and you serving them, and us really all needing to serve one another. Because I always tell people, if we have a focus of serving pretty much everyone around us, then we don't have to decipher who is more important or who needs to be served in a better way or a lower level way. I get in the sales space, you have large strategic accounts, and you give them all your attention, and there's a level of service there, and I pay for that. I get that. I'm talking foundationally about kind of that human element of it. Like, I have a need and you have a need, and we need to be helping each other serve those needs and fill those needs. And so it's just more fundamental focus on service and servants mentality. So I think it's great. So
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, thank you. I mean, I just think that I think servant leadership is real because that's really what makes a leader. It is when you're listening to your people, when you're producing with your people, when you're collaborating with your people, like that's what this is all about. And this is how, this country got made. This is how, a lot of the great leaders that have aspired to do great things got made. They always had a great base of people that helped them along the way. And that base of people was all the people that work for them and why they work for them. When I go back and I look at, why I work for Jim is, at Pearson, and he just inspired me every day. And he taught me so much, and he didn't even realize he was doing it because he wasn't looking at it in that vein. He was looking at it as what he can do to help me to make me more very successful, to help everybody else within the organization. And when you look at it from that viewpoint, it's just a completely different way of being able to achieve success.
I love it. Now, as busy as you are, but again, with this, I guess it's a virtual startup, but I mean, you're doing very well, but the fact that it's a startup, but you're busy. How do you keep connected to everybody? I mean, you have virtual teams, you have folks that are right there, I think, in New York City with you, but you have folks that are, spread about the country. How do you just stay connected with them tactically and just keeping that deeper bond with them?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I mean, I think a lot of it has to just do with, my DNA and also what the future of work really is. And so, when I was, in HR traveling around everywhere to different places, I was known as Virtual Christie. You know what I mean? Because I had a huge remit, at Pearson and, in lots of different states and countries. And, I built relationships up front, over the phone before there was even, Zoom communications or anything like that. But I think, with the future of work, like I can't imagine going back into an office and sitting there 9 to 5. That's not work. What work is how we can inspire each other regardless of where we are, I mean, and how we're doing things. Like I constantly tell my team, I don't care, how you get it done, just get it done well and with our integrity and values. And so we start every morning with our virtual startup. And we have within that virtual startup, we talk about all the things that we're working on and all the things that we need to do, but we also check in with each other. At the beginning of the meeting, we check in as to how we're feeling. And at the end of the meeting, we check out as to how we're feeling and what value we used within the last 24 hours to do the work that we did. And my team is in Seattle, is in Arizona, is in New Jersey, is in Connecticut, and then I have coaches across the country and now globally. And we just continue to have these virtual meetings with each other to be able to stay connected. I did a change management training last night with the coaches that were calling in from everywhere. To be able to, continue to upskill their skills, that help the people that they're coaching. And it was awesome because we were able to do it virtually with the content. And then, we were able to have a really productive conversation after the training as to how they're going to use it, how we're using, change management at Go Coach, how we're using it with our clients. And it became really inspirational because it became storytelling. And storytelling really is a great form of education because it's relatable. It's you've been there and you've done that and you have a story to tell and it shows the possibility of what others can do. And so I think that, we're writing the story of us just with the way that we're working together and the fact that it's going so well. And I'm able to reach so many people by not having office walls. I mean, you got to look at it in that perspective. There are walls and offices all over the place that wall us off from each other. I can reach anyone, anytime, anywhere, with what we're using with Zoom and other virtual communications. And I still have that human connection. I have yet to meet Paul in person. Paul is going to,
he's amazing.
He's amazing, but he's going to be coming to New York for a conference that we're doing with Uncubed in June. And it even though I have yet not met him in person, it hasn't changed the relationship that I have, which, we were strangers and now we're working together and he's our chief coach officer. And I know everything about Paul and I know his values and I know that he's a great individual that's going to continue to build everything that we're doing. And so, break down the walls and open up the doors of possibility, and anything can happen. And if I wasn't a virtual company, I would have never met Paul.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. That may be one of the quote cards we use for you, because I do think I've done a couple talks on, obviously I focus on employee engagement and I have my 7 laws, and people always want to know, well, how does that work for remote teams? And I tell them there really aren't any differences. I mean, there's ways we do it, like you said, with the data, do it more frequently via video or whatever, but do it more frequently maybe than you would if it's something that's in person and you're able to walk down the hall and see the person. But in the end, if employees want many of the same things, and actually even generationally, I mean, it just ends up being a lot of us want fundamentally the same things. And so this idea of distance just means we do have to keep in closer contact because we aren't in the same office and can't just go by and give them a hug or touch a shoulder or whatever, right? It just have that sensory experience around them. But we just have to be a little bit more purposeful in keeping people engaged in the work that we're doing every day, right? And also in the team that we're creating. So I appreciate your focus on that right now, early on.
Yeah, absolutely.
So for the leaders that might be on the call right now that might just be at crossroads, and again, I appreciate your perspective too, having come also from HR. They might be struggling in their leadership. They could be at a crossroads. What maybe just last pearls, words of wisdom you'd like to leave right now for them that just kind of can help them, give them an extra little spark they need on their journey?
No, I mean, I think it's a great question and perspective. I've always seen struggle as, letting the light in. And even in my darkest days, that the light was able to get in just because I kept on going back to who I was and my core, which wasn't all that bad. Like I know I'm a good person and I know I've helped a lot of people. It's those memories that always kept me true. I actually have a couple of different things that I framed, within my home of letters that I've received, throughout my career from people that I've worked with that I inspired them. And, when I have a really bad day, I feel like, my leadership is being tested, being able to read, those letters, and see and remember what I've done in the past, helps me get to the future. And so, go back to your core. Everything is tough every single day, but when you go back to your core and your core is good, you're going to be fine.
I love that. I love that idea of having like letters or the things that remind you of how good you really are and of your past and kind of inspiring you or giving that spark to be able to move forward even in those dark times. That's a great idea. I mean, because sometimes we're looking at quotes of other people and, I have somebody who I know, she goes on Pinterest a lot. She's always looking up these motivational quotes. But what is more motivational than looking up past communications or letters or something that's about your own past, that reveals that light. So I love that idea of, let that light in, because there's plenty of it out there. I think we bear down pretty hard on ourselves, kind of like what you were doing yesterday, right before you're able to really process it. But we expect a lot of ourselves, and we don't realize that being humans, there's some frailty that's in there. We have to take it all in. The good, the bad, the indifferent, the ugly, the pretty, all those things. We have to take it all in and filter it out. And then, like you say, just continue to let that light in. I really appreciate those words. I'm hoping that those who have listened really appreciate those as well. I think there's a lot of good stuff here. I appreciate you so much. And again, all the work that you're doing to help impact leaders, to help grow solopreneur businesses, to, just make a mark and be the good servant. So I appreciate that.
No, thank you. This has been awesome. And I'm so happy that I get to support you and everything that you've been doing. I mean, this is what happens when, you meet great people, and, I haven't met you in person either, but I see everything that you're doing, and it's people like you that continue to inspire me every single day. So thank you.
Oh, I appreciate that. That's awesome. Thanks. You just touched me. Okay, so for those who are listening, if you took away some great nuggets, don't forget to rate and review this show on iTunes or wherever you listen. Because here's the thing: there's algorithms out there, right? So folks are going to find this content more quickly the more that we do have the people that are rating and reviewing it. And also just share it with your friends, because I think this is some good stuff that can apply across the board, whether you are leading formally with authority or you're someone who leads with influence, just being who you are. So I definitely appreciate you listening in to the Leadership with Heart podcast, and you make it a great day. Thank you for listening to the Leadership with Heart podcast. You can grab the show notes by visiting customerfanatics.com, and don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter.